Hey, this is the Tom and Mike show where we do getting started beginner guides to new technology so that we can learn new stuff and so that you can learn new stuff. And we're doing microstates today because state is everywhere. I can say that and pretend I know what I'm talking about, but Tom is going to explain it to you in much better detail.
I'm going to explain it in a little bit more detail, but still probably not enough detail. This library came out a couple weeks ago, I think, and it was on our radar, and we got a request to cover it. I don't think we're going to have enough time to cover everything in the guide. It looks like it's pretty long, and it looks like it's pretty well written, but yeah, so let's get started. I'm going to do I'm going to skim through that first chunk right at the top here, and then we're going to skip a big block of text below, and we're going to dive right into it. So microstates is a functional runtime type system designed to ease state management in component-based applications. That is a bunch of jargon. I'm sure that it'll all become clear to us later on. It allows you to declaratively compose application state from atomic state machines. Once again, it makes you sound really smart if you can just, shoot that off in front of friends and family at dinner. By combining lazy execution, algebraic data types, and structural sharing, we created a tool that provides a tiny API to describe complex data structures and provide a mechanism to change the value in an immutable way. Every one of those little phrases means something. I'm not going to go into detail about what it means because I don't want to create the impression that I'm actually an intelligent person. I'm an idiot. So we're just going to skip past all that and dive right into it and see if we can't make sense of all of that really crazy sounding stuff that hopefully has some actual real-world value. So, what is a microstate? I guess that's the first thing that we're going to be building. A microstate is an object that is created from a value and a type. Okay, so important. That's a back reference to what was mentioned earlier. Type system. The value is just data. Good to know. And the type is what defines how you can transition from data from one form into the next. So, brief aside, if you've never heard of a state machine is generally, can you put the cursor right there? If you have a state A and you want to get to a state B, then there is, in a state machine, usually something called a transition, sometimes called a transform, that, I don't know if there's an official way to mark it up, but here's what I'm going to describe. That, right? So to get to B, you need to do AB. That's what I'm calling the transition. And I don't know. It feels like this might reference state machines a little bit. Could be wrong. Anyway.
Oh.
Yeah. So Mike's going to be driving and I'm going to be commentating. So on to types and type composition. Microstates comes out of the box with 5 primitive types: Boolean, number, string, object, and array. All right, Mike. So Mike be typing, I be talking. You can delete all that. That's not code.
Typey.
So if I had to guess, I would say that we're going to end up modeling some state with some of the primitives that they're giving us. They've implemented their own type system with these, I can't help but use the same terminology even though it's probably incorrect, with these atomic object primitives that they've created. So this is, in other words, I don't want to say DSL because it's not a business domain. It's just a programming domain. But for instance, I'm looking at the code over here on the left, and it says create number 42. Well, we're importing create from microstates. So create is microstates' version of new, in essence, right? It's nice to see that the first argument isn't a string, right? Like the string create string number, because then we'd be in the realm of reinventing the wheel.
I tried to do this thing and it didn't work. And
What?
I don't understand why.
I don't understand. That's not. Oh,
No, this one.
Yep.
And then.
Cool. So.
Oh, it worked.
Yeah, we got 42.
I wrote the code.
And if you look over here, That's exactly what we wanted. Let's type in all of this other stuff, and then we'll console log each one. And admittedly, we're doing this in a relatively low-tech fashion. It's because we just don't know. We just don't know what the latest and greatest and coolest web apps are for doing this in a browser, and it doesn't really matter because at the end of the day, we're still just doing the work, and it's getting done. And Mike over here is just going to be learning so much.
We'll find a sweet way to do it later. Right now, it's just the sweet way we've always done it.
Yeah, and it works.
Like when you work at a place that suffers from not invented here, and you're like, this is the sweet way we've always done things.
Yeah.
Don't do anything differently.
Do you need a better keyboard?
Could be sweet. I don't know. I'm pretty used to this one, but this is just not a very ergonomic desk setup.
So if I had to guess, we're going to get the exact same output as all of the other stuff right there, which is fine. That's fine with me, because it's a nice little exercise. So we have 5 primitive types. We've done Boolean. We're going to do, we've done number. We're going to do string, Boolean, object, and array. I do wonder why this is called microstates. I don't think we figured that part out yet.
Tiny little states.
Yeah, but why microstates? I can imagine at least one other perspective that would answer that, but it's just, and yeah, I am bike shedding, but state is if it wasn't in the 70s and 80s, it is a loaded term now. Like, state wasn't a term invented by React, I'll put it that way. It was invented by the founders of the United States, obviously.
State.
Great commentary, Mike.
The final frontier.
There's a spider living right. Is this thing on?
I think so. Were you typing something?
Yeah. You were typing let numbers equal create array. Let numbers. By the way, I sat down at that keyboard. I can type way faster than you. So I don't know why you're so slow. Oh, look at him! Look at him go. All right, I'll stop being mean.
You're just too fast for me. Maybe because you type all day and I just learned how to type.
You're right. I do type all day. I'm just I probably write 10 pages a day. I don't know how many words that is, but it's a lot. Cool. Run that. Still getting used to the thing, huh?
Kerblamo.
Cool. So looks like we mostly did everything right. We got 42 hello world true, object type foo getter. What we should do, and I'm not going to do it right here, but we should figure out a way to pretty print stuff. I remember there was a pretty printer called PP, I think.
I like PP.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Let's not worry about it right now. Okay, cool. So that was the first chunk. Apart from these basic types, every other type in MicroStates is built by combining other types. Let's think about that for a second. So we've got primitive types, and now they're telling us that if you want more types, they're more or less composed of other types. And I know that compose has implications, but when I say compose, I basically just mean plopping two things together, 2 or more things. That's all I'm talking about. I'm not talking about inheritance. I'm not talking about chains of things. I'm literally just talking about the simplest basic operations of putting something inside of another thing.
Composition.
Yeah. So, for example, to create a person type, you could define a JavaScript class with 2 properties: name, which has type string, and age, which has type number. Let's do that right now. Age ain't nothing but a number.
All right.
Name ain't nothing but a string. All right. Let's do this one, and let's scroll down a little bit. Yeah. All right, I'm so excited. Are you excited? I'm excited.
Yeah.
I just became really excited.
Mm.
Because, got the tingles. Let person equals create.
Do I have to delete everything?
Nope, leave it. You could delete those console logs before we compile this. So it's looking like we have to pipe everything through create so far, which is fine. Homer, H39. I wonder if this is Homer or Homer.
How dare they make me type such a thing?
All right, quickly, let's delete those console logs.
All of them?
Yeah. Sweet. And before we compile this, every microstate called with the type of person will be an object that looks like this. All right, let's take a minute to digest this. Using the cursor, so we have microstate person. Every microstate created with type person will be an object that looks like this. Okay, so in essence, on line 19 over here, we've created a person instance via create. We've given it given its properties some values right here, and over here on the left, this is what that is right now. So a person is a type of microstate. That's what those little angles represent. I can never remember the name of the character, but you know what I'm talking about.
Microstate of the person type?
Yeah. Within person, there are two more microstates, and they have methods. So I'm guessing that create gives us some methods by default. So property state is Homer. In your case, it's Lioner.
Homer.
It says Lioner.
That's just a fancy way.
Okay. It has set and concat. I don't know what concat does, but I'm guessing that it's provided for us because it's a string. So concatenation and strings go hand in hand. No pun intended.
Mm.
And then age, same thing, same deal. We got number, we got increment, decrement, set, and state. This is looking pretty cute. And then on the larger state, or person microstate, we have set, function, and then state itself, and that references the values. So that's interesting, and I'm wondering where the structural sharing comes into play, but I think that maybe that's later in the tutorial. Okay, for the 5 built-in types, microstates automatically gives you transitions that you can use to change their values. So you don't have to write any code to handle common operations. Now, what on earth could that possibly mean? Gives you transitions that you can use to change their value. Gives you transitions. I'm assuming that we will find out how to trigger those transitions with actions. At least that's how it might work in state machines. Anyway, or events. Let's go on to creating your own microstates. Types can be combined with other types freely, and microstates will take care of handling the transitions for you. This makes it possible to build complex data structures that accurately describe your domain. Let's define another type that uses the person type. Okay, now we're just going to keep appending to this file, even though everything more or less between lines 3 and 12 is not going to be used anymore. I'm not a car person, but do you know of any cars that are known to be designed by a single designer? Kind of like how for Apple there's Johnny Ive or whatever his name is, and everybody knows there's a team that designs everything. But are there cars where it's like there's a single person who's the main guy?
I think Ford still designs all of his cars by hand.
Yeah. I can think of one other car, like DeLorean. There's that guy. He didn't design it, but his name is associated with it. So we're making a Homer car. Okay, so this must be Simpsons Homer. I guess I'm not a fan of the classics.
Yeah. Freaking, yeah.
Okay, so just thinking out loud here, it's looking like we can pass in almost any type of object shape and values, and microstates will, for lack of a better term, decorate that and create a giant microstate out of it, if that makes any sense. So when we pass in that object for Homer car, that itself is not a microstate. That's just a JSON object, right? But what we get back is all of those things down to the leaf level wrapped in a microstate. So
nested microstates.
Yeah. So age would be a microstate, name would be a microstate, designer would be a microstate, and then that is all a member of a larger car microstate. Once again, still not sure why they're called microstates. Don't understand the micro prefix, but I'm going to stop mentioning it because it's going to get annoying if I keep doing it.
Should we go back and read all the docs, or just...
It's not covered.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So now we have a diagram that is very much similar to the one that we looked at before up here. It's just illustrating that we've gone up another degree in complexity. So down at the leaf level we have string, and that's the Homer. Yeah, okay. So this is 1, 2, 3, and that's Homer 39. And we got person is designer right here. We got name, which is string Homer, state, car, this object, Homer 39, name, the Homer. Great. All right. You can use the object dot notation to access sub microstates using the same example from above. Let's do that.
I'm actually not sure what I'm doing.
You're going to console log those things.
This is what I'm doing, okay.
So we're going to do designer state, designer age state, designer, and then name state. Designer.age. And then just name, no designer. Homer car name. Boom. Yeah, try not to make that noise.
There we go. There we go.
Unexpected token.
Do we expect this token?
Should be fine. Can you pause this? Okay, so we had a little bit of a technical hiccup. Apparently our Babel wasn't configured with stage 0 presets, so the exact class syntax that is being used, right here with the equal sign and all this stuff, it wasn't compiling correctly, so we sorted that out. And where we left off was at this dot notation stuff. We wanted to print out, we wanted to do exactly what this little chunk right here is doing, so we're going to do that right here, and we're good. So we got person name.
Nice.
It's a getter. This is one of the downsides of doing this the way that we're doing it with console log, but it's okay.
Getters.
Yeah, we could figure this out at a later date.
We could use extensions. Getters and setters.
I'm not going to dignify that.
Okay.
The state from sub-microstates is also available on the parent object. So if we call the Homer car.state, it'll give us the first degree of the car. So, do you know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about degrees?
Shallow and deep.
Close. You could also say order if you wanted to sound more mathy, but all I'm talking about is the depth of the object.
The nth degree.
Yeah, kind of. So real simple. This first, second, third. It's just an easy way to refer to how deeply nested we are.
Oh.
Yeah, I could say indentation level, but that's too syntax centric.
MicroStates.
Yeah. So stop breathing on me. And we're going to move to array microstates. Quite often it's helpful to describe your data as a collection of types. This is true. Super true. For example, a blog might have an array of posts. You know what? I'm kind of falling in love with this library, to be completely honest.
Pretty
because
cool,
I wrote a very similar library without getting into it too much, and I'm interested to see what they do with array microstates. To do this, you can use the array of type notation post. This signals that microstates of this type represent an array whose members are each of the post type. Alright, so you got some typing to do.
Post type.
Yeah.
Do we delete this?
You could just delete the console logs and we'll just start writing the blog stuff right there. Yeah. Fantastic. Cool. So we got a class blog, and it has posts and an array of posts. So that's interesting. So yeah, it's not that obvious what's going on here, but internally what this library is going to do is, this is actually a little bit related to our last video, in that I could imagine that behind the scenes this is using property descriptors. If that was it property descriptors? Yeah, I think it was property descriptors. I can imagine that it's using property descriptors to reflect on this, because in essence at runtime it's going to take in blog and it's going to say, okay, well, has own property posts, and what is that? It is a type array, and what is the type of the first thing in the array? Post. I wouldn't be surprised if it was capable of digesting an array with multiple types in it, in which case maybe we'll find out what it does, but most fascinating blog raffle. Okay, cool. So we got a couple more console logs. Wow, you typed that in pretty quickly.
Meh.
Yeah. I wonder if we'll get getter a couple more times. If we keep seeing getter, then we'll take a timeout and figure out a better way to print this stuff. Nope. That is not. Yep. There you go. Okay, so I'm gonna skip ahead real quick, and I'm just gonna read the next section. When you're working with an array microstate, the shape of the microstate. See, you thought I was bullshitting when I was using the term shape, but there's really not that good of a way to describe complex objects. Posts. Where are you writing posts? It's just post. Yeah, there's really not that great of a way to have a word. There's not a good word for it aside from shape. Maybe form? I don't know. Perfect. So we are doing getter, so we might take a little breather to just figure out how to print this out so that we're not haunted by this issue. Cool. So we had another minor issue, and we resolved it by installing a library called Pretty Format. So now we get something that is more or less pretty close to what this guide is showing.
No more getters.
No more getters. Yeah, importantly, no more getters. Okay, so where were we?
We were at this paragraph here.
When you're working with an array microstate, the shape of the microstate. Right, I was rambling about this. In this case, post is created with 2 items, which will in turn create a microstate with 2 items. Okay, so that's in the next. Oh no, that's right there. So right here, posts. We have create. Oh, okay, neat. So we define the blog right here. We define post, and then it sees that this is an array of post, and then when we actually create an instance, we are saying this thing has 2 posts. So that's what they're referring to. Each item will be a microstate of type post. If you push another item onto the post microstate, it'll be treated as a post. Cool. So we can. This is more or less a proxy, so to speak, for create. So we can just push a blind object onto there, and behind the scenes, it'll be turned into a thing of type post. So that would be a really good thing to run over in the code. So, by the way, instead of console.log, you're just going to do pp, because we are fucking 8 years old, apparently. And yeah, so delete the prints. Yep. And then do blog2. You're going to be doing that right there on the left side. Nice. You pasted it, you cheater.
I cheated.
All right, so and then pretty print the blog2 posts to state. Cool. Notice how we didn't have to do any extra work to define the state transition of adding another post to the list. That's the power of composition. So I think that's maybe the first time that they've brought up state transitions, and that's what I mentioned very briefly in the beginning.
Yes.
Wait, that was when the microphone was turned off, so I don't think we actually got that part recorded.
Maybe we should re-mention it.
Yeah. So I
Just
was theorizing that I was talking about states and state transitions and how the name of the library was implying that there was a state machine somewhere. And I was also saying that there's always state regardless of how you are representing it, right? So and state transitions are how you would get from state A to state B. And that transitions oftentimes have a name or a shorthand. I was defining the transition between state A and state B as just AB, which isn't a very good way to communicate it in plain English, but it works in diagrams. Anyway, so
I understand the AB state transition.
So what's interesting to me is that we can just do push on posts, and there's some stuff going on behind the scenes here, because the library has to intercept or at least implement part of that push, and it has to know what kind of object to create. Does that make sense? So it knows that posts is an array of post, but what we're passing it is just data. It's not data of type post. It's the fields that can be put into post. That's an interesting way of approaching things, something that you would probably only see in a language like JavaScript. Nothing wrong with that, just worth noting. All right, object microstates. You can also create an object microstate with curly post. The difference is that the collection is treated as an object. This can be helpful when creating normalized data stores. What does it all mean? We don't really know. Okay, so if I were typing right now, I would comment out everything from line 38 down to the bottom. And the reason, if you're new to developing code, the reason why I would comment all of that out instead of just deleting it, because you never know when you're doing a tutorial if they're just something's going on right now. Do you know what it is? We switched seats because Mike got butter on his fingers, and the keys just were not coming out fast enough. So, yeah, that looks about right. Can you eyeball this for me? Tell me if this looks right.
Looks great.
Okay. It doesn't look great. Something bad happened, and it's because this is an array. You got one job. You need to get some BDE energy up in here. And
behavior-driven development.
what is going on? So something has imploded, and I'm not yet sure what it is. We have posts, it's an object, and blog, posts, zero, state, blog. ID, well, in their example, ID, the first ID is a string and the second ID is a number. The first title is a string. What are we missing? I don't understand. Do you know what we're missing?
A semicolon somewhere?
There's semicolon insertion. Well, maybe I'll just copy the example exactly so that... Okay. And, okay, so the actual error is cannot read property state of undefined. And its index is 0. So, is the example wrong? Because why would posts 0 be a thing if there is no 0? You know what I mean?
Yeah, why don't you try
So, is that it?
nuking it?
Yeah, so this is one of the reasons why we do these tutorials, is so that you can follow along with us doing it and then see that there are issues in tutorials, and every library author is well-intentioned, but people make mistakes. And if you're just beginning, or you've had a long day and you're trying to do this stuff, or it's the weekend and you don't have that much time, it can be a little frustrating.
Wow, that was unbelievable.
Yeah, not a big deal. Nobody's perfect, and it's just such a small thing too, easy to miss. So object type microstates have object transitions such as assign, put, and delete. Okay, so that's the first thing. That's getting close to a formal There we go. Perfect. That's what I wanted to see. Transitions defined. I'm gonna let you do this next part, the blog 2 put stuff.
Okay.
I feel.
This is blog 2.
Yeah. So, in essence, we're just doing exactly what we did before in the previous example, but now it is an object microstate. So I like this. It's a nice little tour of the intricacies and the things to look out for. I'm really glad that they did object microstates, because if they didn't, then it wouldn't necessarily be super clear that you don't need to create a new class for every different type of object type thing in your domain, if that makes any sense. So another way to think of it is, I don't want to have to create a post list class just to encapsulate that I have posts. That's 3 ways of doing the same thing. The array, the raw object or the simple object, and then a new class, which is just totally extraneous, but there could be a good reason to do it if you had more state attached to it.
If you were a stickler for picklers.
Yeah. So I think that is enough progress for this video. This is a kind of a long introduction. Next time we're going to do transitions, and I'm kind of bummed that we didn't get to this time, but transitions are when stuff starts moving around. So as I mentioned before, there's states, but how do you get from one state to the other? And the answer is transitions, and interesting things can happen in transitions.
Movers and shakers.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we'll do that in the next one.
Yep.
Alrighty, bye-bye.